Hi, my name's Caden Williams, aka Coach Caden, like I said before, and I say that because I am a high school basketball coach and as well as a teacher's aide at a high school in Huntington Beach. Today I'm going to be going over some introductory activities that you can implement into your lessons plan to, especially at the elementary level, the fifth grade level that I want to be able to teach at, and that's what my main focus is. And these teaching and getting these understandings is for these intro activities you can implement into your classes. I do a lot with the high school kids. Obviously, they're a little bit more physically aware and capable of doing certain activities at a higher level. But as well, these introductory activities get your kids eager to, want to learn and get them energized and pumped up and ready for the lesson plan that you have for the day or the weeks that you have. So for the first introduction activity, I'm going to be doing running and changing direction. And the second one I'm going to be doing is run, stop, pivot. And I chose these two because it's pivotal for the fifth grade level I want to teach it at, and these are introductory activities at the developmental one stage, and they're very important to do because these kids at this age, right, at the fifth grade level, I chose this because they're in between the spectrums of being advanced, with the sixth, seventh grade, eighth grade levels, as well. They're very, very amateur in the first, second grade, PE classes that they're in. So I chose these two because it's basically fundamental activities that basically just introduce how their bodies can be able to move as physically well as understanding what type of capabilities that they can implement into the way they attack the game, as well as they can achieve to get to the end goal. So the first one is run and change in direction. So what a nice introductory activity I like to do is put the kids in a square or in a diamond formation. But so say I'm gonna put these cones down just to reference, how the square might look, right? So you put these down. All right, hopefully you see that. Yep. So with the square pattern, okay, running and changing direction. Running and changing direction. Running is also, and obviously I'm running in place, but it's a fundamental movement where a lot of body parts are moving, but it's a fundamental movement that gets these kids to move from place to place, right? Using all facets of their body, using their torso to stay strong and tight, using their arms to be able to pump their body and get there, as well as being coordinated with their lower body as they're running, right? So as my arms are pumping, my legs are going to be pushing in that opposite direction of my arm, as you can see. Right, go to the side. So slow it down. My arms are going to be pumping to exert my body and push my body in the directions to pump and run, protract my body to get to where I need to. Now, with implementing this, right, duck, duck, goose. Everybody's known it as a childhood, right? It's a childhood game. That's why I like to introduce it, right? I don't do so much at the high school level because they're a little too big for that. But, if I'm going into my fifth grade teachings that I want to do, this is something that all kids love, and I like to do it. So running and changing direction, right? So imagine the kids are in a big square, right? Duck, duck, goose, right? You start here, you're touching kids' heads, duck, 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 duck. Now, before I even get to the running and changing direction, you have to understand why this is important, because again, just because a kid is walking, they're still getting the very fundamentals and a breakdown of walking and changing direction, which can lead into a progressive state as running, when obviously you're getting chased by something that you tag as the goose. So this is a good introductory activity to implement, because again, they get a breakdown and they get a warm-up to where they want to get into that more pronounced state of running and exerting more energy. So again, going back to it, you press duck, 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 changing that direction, duck, duck, duck. Now I say goose. I'm taking this person right here, and I have to cut and lead my foot to go as sharp as I can to cut this angle to where I can go. Now, breaking down how we want to run and change direction. Obviously, we know we have a running stance, right? But as I want to change direction, I have to use the implements that I have to implement my foot, and I have to swing. Again, going back to our fundamental skills of, you know, bending and twisting, I have to bend my torso as well as position my foot to where I can cut, and now I'm swinging that foot around to change my direction, right? So in a faster state, right? Say I'm running full speed, I'm running, I'm changing that direction, right? So again, going back to it, right? Just introductory activity I do, duck, 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 changing, and I'm getting around. Obviously, I'm getting chased by a person I said duck, goose to, but I'm running and changing my direction. Now, a self-consequence that we can have into this is the way we change our direction in the space, how we do it. If I'm changing my direction, right, and I go too wide, now it's going to be hard for me to get back tight on this next corner, because if I take too wide, I'm taking my angle out to where I'm cutting myself in between, as well as I'm undercutting myself to where I can change that direction as quickly as I can to get to where I need to go. Okay, so that's the first introductory activity. The second introductory activity that I do is the run, stop, and pivot. Okay, so moving my cones. Okay, I'm gonna put it in a zigzag state. So going into this next one, as you can see, I put it in a zigzag state, right? Running and changing directions. Now, in a zigzag state, obviously it's not a straight line, right? It'd be too easy. But what I like to do is set my kids up in groups of 4 or 5, and I put them into a relay race. And I put this in the zigzag formation because it gives them an opportunity to, you know, obviously it's a little harder within the frame of doing these like on this video, right? But sometimes I do shorter turns as well as I do longer turns. So when doing these, right, I'm changing these directions right here, right? So this first cone that you see right here, okay, starting the formation, again, starting 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how many kids are in the class, right? You have to be able to go. I'm sprinting as hard as I can, and I'm changing my direction. Changing my direction. And as I get back, I have to do the same thing. Okay? So why I do this is running and stop and pivoting. My apologies. This goes into another part of my running and changing direction. My apologies. Everybody makes mistakes, okay? No, but that was another part, you know, the relay race, going into running and change direction. But going into my run, stop, pivot, right? I like to do a relay race. But again, me being a basketball coach, this comes to nature and it's easy for me to teach. So what I do is I do a relay race. I stack them up with 4, 5 lines, again, depending on how many classes, right? We'll run to a certain level, right? Say if we're in the gym, we'll go sideline to sideline, okay? We'll run as fast as we can. We'll stop, and now we have to pivot. Now, again, in basketball, there's 2 types of pivots you can do. A regular pivot where you're going frontwards, or if you stop, you can reverse. Okay? Now breaking down how we pivot, okay? Again, there's a wide stance that we want to do, right? But when we get into our pivot points, right, we have to be able to utilize our lower body mainly, right? So how way we pivot is, the way I like to break it down is essentially you just use your feet, you use your feet, right? It's essentially a lift of the heels, and say I want to pivot on my right foot. It's essentially a lift of the heels. I'm pushing up off this back foot that I have, my right foot staying down. I'm lifting up on my heels, I'm pushing, and I'm turning. Now again, there's many ways you can do it. You can turn 90 degrees, or I can turn 180, right? Or again, the more proficient you are, the more you can go. You can go 360 degrees. Right, I'm not that well at it right now, but again, this is all about lifting your heels, getting on the balls of those toes, and you're pushing, and I'm pivoting. Okay, so again, like I said, going into my relay race, there's two types of pivots, right? A front pivot and a reverse pivot, right? So what I'll do is basically I'll run. What I have the kids do is they got to do four different sets to win their relay race. One, this builds a lot of stamina and endurance, right? Giving them the chance to, get their wind up while they're sprinting, right? As well as they're getting the understanding of how to run, stop at a certain distance, right on the dot, and then pivot and sprint back. So again, the relay race is always fun for the kids, right? But they have to do a reverse pivot on the left side. I'm sorry, a front pivot on the left side, a reverse pivot on the left side, a front pivot on the right side, a reverse pivot on the right side. So again, just sprinting, right? Just sprinting, reverse, sprint back. That's the front. That was my right foot, right? That was a right pivot, right? So that was a front pivot. Now, the second one is sprinting, reverse pivot. Okay. Now they've done those, correct? Everybody's got to do it at least once in the line. Okay, say there's 4 kids in line, each kid's got to be able to do it. That's the right side. Now the second one they got to complete. Sprint, front pivot with the left, sprint back. Okay. Last one, sprint, reverse pivot with the left, sprint back. Whenever team is completed at the end, all 4 kids go, they complete all 4 sets of it, they win the race. Now, at the end of the week, we always go over a tally, and we keep track of. We just essentially gold stars, right? Whoever has the gold stars at the end of the month, those kids get a certain prize at the end of the month. So, winning these little intro activities are very important to these kids because they get to reap the benefits of how they are, how their production and how they're getting the skills and the fundamental basic movements of how competitive they want to be, So those are my introductory activities. Now, moving into it, we're going into fitness developmental activities. Okay, so again, this is developmental 1, right? I'm going to go over a push-up lead up, right? That just breaks down a normal push-up stance leading up into activities that go into, certain levels of lifting up one foot, pushing up, moving their feet, kicking back and forth, touching their arms, push up with a clap. So there's different, this is why we call it a push-up lead up, leading up into, more physically demanding and more complicated areas. The next one is the Achilles tendon stretch. This is a more health. Okay. This is a more health-related physical development, right? This is more for flexibility. The push-up lead-up is more in our strength. So basically demonstrating our push-up. Correct. I'm gonna do it in a squared-up face, and then I'll move to the side and I'll get you, and then I'll show you guys, how we want to push and what our stance looks like from that side. So, right, basically, just the push-up stretch, right? Again, a lot of kids at this level, right, they're not able to hold themselves up, right? So obviously we want to push them, we want to get them into a physical state to where they can just stand, be in this position as good amount of time as they can, and they can just do a normal push-up, correct? But if they want to get tired, rather than just putting both feet on the ground and losing that stance and losing that time to, you know, gain the strength in their arms or the muscle memory of the push-up position, we just allow them to put one knee on the ground to hold themselves up, and then they get right back into it. Right, so that's a normal position of what a push-up. I think everybody knows what that is, right? But there's different activities that we use, okay? So when a push-up lead up, right, they can do a normal push-up, right? Once they get hang of that, boom. Now, what I want to do with my two back feet, I don't know if you can see it, I try to move in the frame as I can, right? We keep our feet right back, and now they just jump. Moving in front, keeping those feet up, okay? Next one is they're just touching their shoulder. Touching their shoulder. Again, this is using the physical strength, the physical fitness ability introduction of it, okay? Next one, a lot of kids won't be able to do until they get really proficient at it, but you push up and you clap in between, okay? So I'm gonna demonstrate it right here, and then you're going back. Again, these are different introductory level fitness push-up lead-ups, but at the end of the day, kids are gonna have to develop, they're gonna have to get stronger, so these lead-ups are gonna help them a long time if you do them a good amount of time. Okay, our last one is our Achilles tendon stretch, okay? Let me put you over here for a second. Okay, basic demonstration of how we want to stretch our Achilles. Okay, I'm sorry, having trouble putting this up here. Okay. I hope you can see me, okay? Want to find a flat surface against your wall, right? So what you want to do, you want to face up against the wall. You want to put your hands in a diamond state like this, and you want to lean up against that wall. Elbows are on the wall. Your hand is on that forehead. One leg, that lead, is going frontwards. Other leg is coming back. Okay, so as we do this, we're pushing against, as well as keeping that back foot. My apologies, y'all. Having technical difficulties. I'll put you right here. Okay, so sorry, going back into it. What we want to do, correct, is we want to put our hands in that diamond state against the wall, lean our forehead up. We got a lead foot, which is this lead foot here, and we got a back foot to where this is the Achilles. Our right leg is what's going to get stretched. As we do this, we lean forward, pressure against that wall, but we have to keep this foot as flat as we can on this back end, as straight as we can, so we can feel that active touch. Okay, so when we push against the wall, right, obviously it's different in this angle, right, which you want to leave that foot on the ground and lean forward. And where you should feel it is in a high calf area, but as well as it's getting this tendon right here to where it's stretching. So when we lean against it, you push, hold it for 15, 20 seconds, and then we switch. Alright, so again, those are just helpful, things to get. That's a good stretch to, demand of your kids, because again, it's all about health. It's all about keeping these kids healthy, right? Obviously, I need to do that a lot more, as I've actually torn my Achilles before. So again, I preach that type of introductory physical fitness and health and fitness stretch to all my kids growing up, whether they're high school, elementary, whatever. So those are my demonstrations. I hope they help, and I hope you get an understanding and implement a couple of those into your classes.